introduction. Now I have something that I actually have to try and live up to. As you've no doubt heard from Rick, he's a historian, he's a philosopher, he is a scholar, he's a political scientist. What he didn't say is that he also has this incredible track record of really working to transform government, particularly on a local level. I've witnessed it firsthand and had the pleasure and honor of working with him within the city of Los Angeles, and now he's applying so many of his great skills in the city of Santa Monica. I'm really also pleased to be here with Coro putting this together, a great lineup of speakers, including a number of sponsors such as the City of Los Angeles. Give it up for the City of LA. We have, by the way, quite a number of people who work for the City of Los Angeles and work for the people of Los Angeles, and so I'm really grateful to be able to work with them. So what we're here to do is really explore how do we leverage tech and data to make government more responsible and also more responsive, to help build faith in our institutions, especially, and as Rick mentioned this, when so many of those institutions are being attacked, and we only have to look at the headlines on a daily basis, and we need, I think, more than ever to strengthen that democracy. But I have to say, I am very optimistic. Rick mentioned, for example, the old Chinese curse of may you live in interesting times, but it's also considered a blessing, may you live in interesting times. So it's a little bit of both. And there's no better convener for this task, I think, than Coro, which trains its fellows to think critically, to explore, to debate, and ultimately to act. And I've witnessed that firsthand, having a number of talented fellows in our office serving on the admissions panel of Coro, along with others to figure out how do you put together the best class, and also the honor of speaking with you today. And in an age in which we are seeing a breakdown of civic discourse on so many different levels, the work that Coro is doing to build that civic discourse, I think, is more vital than ever. And that's also what I'm charged with doing in my work. As controller, just a little bit of a summary of what we do. I do payroll for a small little intimate group of about 45,000 people who work for the City of LA. Also distribute the billions of dollars that we spend on just about every single good and service that you can possibly imagine. We issue financial reports, we make projections, we do audits, we have a waste, fraud, and abuse unit, we issue recommendations for how to improve the city in terms of our performance as well as our financial audits. And so much of this now, more than ever, is about tech. It used to be, by the way, the controller's office. The stereotype was, a bunch of accountants with the pocket protectors, but that has changed. It's very much about people, about technology, it's about systems. And our work is really standing at that intersection, as I see it, of technology and innovation and of democracy. Now, there are three pillars and three principles that I think are vital for all of us here and that are very much the centerpiece of my work. And those are transparency, trust, and transformation. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those. And I believe that tech underlies each and every single one of those pillars. I also believe very deeply in the ability of technology. We talked about some of the threats of technology, but I also see it, and I witness it firsthand, the ability of that transparency, of that technology, to really create a greater level of accountability and a greater level of efficiency and responsiveness to the people that we serve, and to change the very nature of the relationship between us and government. And often there are those who are very doubtful about that relationship, and you see some of the polls that are out there. But at the same time, we have the ability in this room, each and every single one of us, I believe, to help change that relationship. Now, my own background was, I was a journalist for quite a number of years. I became an attorney. I was also a community and neighborhood activist. And then there was a day that came where I got this letter from my then council member. And it was a very nicely written letter, and it explained why I was not going to see the repainting of our street anytime soon. And it explained how that year we were budgeted for about 175 miles of repaving, and that we have more than 6,000 miles of streets in Los Angeles. The message was this could take up years, but thank you so much for your patience. And I didn't feel very patient, as Rick mentioned. Maybe that's not my strongest suit, is patience. And I began to be obsessed with where our money comes from and where it's going, and why we were seemingly unable to do some of the very basics of city government, because the answer usually was, well, we'd love to do it, but there's just no money for it. So a whole series of things led to my running to become controller of the city of Los Angeles. By the way, that doesn't mean I control everything, although I'm trying. And one of the first things that I wanted to do was to create an open data portal, particularly with the financial data of the city. For those of you who haven't had a chance to check it out, it's controlpanel.la, and what you will find is every dollar that is spent by the city. You'll find a virtual checkbook, it's searchable, it's downloadable, it's Facebookable, it's tweetable, all of those things. You'll also find every single item that the city purchases, who we bought it from, what we paid for, all that good stuff. You'll find every detail of payroll. You'll find every piece of property that is owned by the city mapped, and so many other things. It's interesting, when I first came into office, what I was amazed was there was absolutely no Wi-Fi in my office. There was not a laptop to be found, but we did have 10 fax machines. I was actually horrified, and so set about trying to bring our office, even if it was occasionally kicking and screaming, into the 21st century. And to also integrate this not just for the employees of our own department, but make that available for everybody else. Now, of course, anybody with any device can go and see all this information, which I believe is really intended to improve the operations of our city, but also to democratize this. And it's been used for repairing and striping of our streets in a better way, of improving the DWPs, which is the Department of Water and Power, the largest municipal utility in the nation, their performance, getting actual facts so that you can make more fact-based decisions. Not that politicians, when given the facts, always make fact-based decisions, but we can hope. And it's designed to create that level, as I mentioned, of those 3 T's, of that transparency, that trust, that transformation. Because we want to make sure that we know that government is not hiding the proverbial ball, as it were. So what's to be done with all of this? What's to be done is to really transform government. And there's so many ways in which that data, and I'm seeing it on a daily basis, are transforming the way that we deliver services. And it's transforming it within the inside, but also from within outside, because there are all these activists out there, all these people who are interested for a whole variety of reasons. And it's bringing in a whole new generation. And I find that actually very gratifying. Changing the way our fire department works, changing the way that things happen at our airport, changing the way that people do business in the city of Los Angeles. And I want to make it usable. So for example, we have every single one of our special funds up and searchable on our site. And we have 900 some special funds besides the general fund. And that's where most of the money sits. Now it's interesting, I spoke with somebody, this was about a year ago, who wanted to see some changes in their local park. And they were told initially, well, we don't have the money. So I said, go check out what the various accounts are that have something to do with parks. Well, lo and behold, we have actually something like 20 different funds that have something to do with parks, and it's all very searchable. And see if any of the governing rules and the governing documents that have something to do with parks might be used for this particular kind of improvement. And in fact, that's what they did. They were able to go to their council member and say, well, we'd like to see this improvement, and we have an idea of where that money can actually come from. That completely changes the game and completely changes the conversation that our residents have with their elected officials when they're able to not just say, we'd like this done, but by the way, here is the way that it can be done. Now, by the way, in my office, we've had some amazing partnerships. We've had them with the mayor's office, and the mayor is also very technically inclined, and so many wonderful people at that office. With the Information Technology Agency of the City of Los Angeles. Interestingly enough, when I first came into office, I learned that there were only 3 people, maybe 4, under the age of 30 in the Information Technology Agency. Now, by the way, you can be 80 years old and be at the very cutting edge of tech. but it was amazing to me that that agency had not sort of been renewing itself over the years. That has now thankfully changed. We've worked with companies, with civic activists, with neighborhood councils, foundations, with students, and that is really meant to highlight and to build on those powers of those 3 T's. So to kind of wrap up on that, transformation is really the key that we're trying to get out of the steps that we take in terms of creating that transparency and creating that trust. I believe that we've made a great amount of progress in the city of LA, but there is so much to do because, as we know, the pace of technological change is happening at a breakneck speed. And everything that we think we know today is going to change radically again in just a few years, and then radically again after that. But with that will come opportunities we haven't even begun to imagine yet. Some of you have imagined some of them, but some of them are just before us, but we don't even know it yet. So I'm really inspired by the challenges, by the opportunities, by the ability to be here with each and every single one of you, because, believe it or not, government can't do it alone. And we need each and every single one of you to be a part of that process. And the fact that you decided to spend your day here engaged in this subject gives me great optimism and great faith in the fact that we're going to do it. So have a wonderful time today. Learn, schmooze, connect with people, get lots of business cards, and this will all lead to so many wonderful results. And I couldn't be more pleased to be with you. Thank you so very much.